Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon listeners. It's me Sulaiman Ben Sware coming on Facebook Live. Today is Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, I think it's Wednesday. To be honest, I'm not sure. I've been, yeah, Wednesday the 23rd. Wednesday the 23rd of February 2022. If you just bear me a minute, let me share this video and we can start the program. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As I said, today is Wednesday, the 23rd of February 2022. The program will be starting now. The program there. The laptop.
Which?
It's a laptop tablet. It's a tablet. It's battery of charge. Okay, we wait for the battery to charge, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's not even charging.
The battery is charging?
No.
It's not charging?
No.
Okay, tell Mushi to charge it for you.
No, it's this one's charger.
Okay, listen, charge it. Okay, tell listen to do it for you. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I have company here. We are on a half time. Sorry about that. Thank you. We are going to discuss if Gambia can develop sustainably. If Gambia can develop sustainably. The reason for this discussion is we can see it on social media. Trending. And I know what is trending. It's what Senegal is achieving. That's what's trending. And what this trending is Gambians been really been dissolute or been really frustrated for seeing their neighbors possibly doing something. And they aspire to see the same thing in their country, especially when they see the stadium the Senegalese have built and other things Senegalese have built, and they looked at our country, entirely everything is crumbling. And this is the reason why we're having this debate. And I can reference a few people that have raised very valid points that I need to I am looking at, and I would want our discussion to go through those angles to determine why are we not developing, or why didn't we achieve a sustainable development. Is it possible to develop sustainably? Are there any other reasons? Are there natural reasons that disallow us to develop, or is only it's up to us to develop? We're going to discuss this, but without still taking long, just to talk about some of the points that have been raised. One of our brothers have posted that we'd rather build a 5-star hospital than a stadium, and I said, why not we have both? We can have both. And I'll give my argument. I'll give my argument here. I did respond, and he did ask, "How can we achieve?" He said, "How can we achieve both when we cannot achieve one?" Which was brilliant. But I gave my response there. But I will elaborate my response how we can achieve both. And another sister, Lamdo Bundusi, posted last night We need better health care to treat people that get injured during matches. We need roads that with tarmac cement than pothole. We need more hotels that can house dignitaries. We need better roads that won't drop my shock absorbers on ditch called potholes. We need sustainable mini stadium to train our youths. We need constant electricity to matches won't be cancelled due to NOEC. We need our expert players. And go on and when on. All the points raised are valid. All the points raised are valid. These are all things we need. Can we achieve all of this? Yes. Can we achieve this? How are we going to achieve this? Is on sustainable development. Yes, we might look at other countries, but we have to determine our development according to the resources and the potentials we have. We develop that, and we're going to discuss this. And just now, before coming on live, Sister Anita posted to say, Gambia, we do not have to copy Senegal by rushing to develop a stadium. Brilliant, brilliant. And this is again along the argument I am saying. How we doing along the argument? What is our strategy for sustainable development? Exactly why. That's why I asked the question: can we develop sustainable? Sister Anita continued to say, how does this proposed stadium fit in alignment to our vision as a country? Yes, a country must have a vision, and we'll touch on that as well. And she continued to say, why do Africans like to leapfrog their development? Building a state-of-art stadium with no running water, our people lack all the aspects to live a basic life. Thank you. Sister Anita just put a very valid point, or put it exactly as it should be put, and just make you wonder, when we build our story buildings, when we don't have water to pump and to enjoy the luxuries that we have put in that building with our hard-earned cash, when, God forbid, there's fire, we don't have the fire service to come and put it off, because the fire service cannot find water, cannot fetch that water because there's no pressure in it, or the fire service is not equipped. These are all things that we keep on talking about. And when people talk about 𝐶𝐚 development, this is what we used to tell them: land develop. There's a way we develop. People talking about, barom nge develop, nge sampa tali and sampa bridges. Is that development? It has to be strategic. We don't say we don't build roads, we don't build bridges, we don't do build other things. But all these things have to be within a plan. And there should be a strategy to implement it. There should be priorities. And all the things that we need would be to fight corruption. To fight corruption. I know the worst case scenario in the Gambia. Senegal is very corrupt. The Senegalese government is very, very, very corrupt. What helps Senegal is there's productivity, just as in Kenya and other countries. What if you have competent people who are productive when they are corrupt? It will take a long time, or there is always something to absorb the shock that comes from the corruption. But it don't delay your development. Senegal would have achieved far more if they have fought corruption. But Gambia, we are not fighting corruption, and the incompetency is just something else. Then that's why we are where we are. Kenya and other countries are moving because competence is there, corruption is there, and other problems are there. But that's why my emphasis here would be based on good governance, fighting corruption, and inclusivity. To be inclusive. This is very important. And I think it's one of good governance is our problem. Corruption is our problem. And lack of inclusivity is our problem. And we will address this. We'll address this. I want to start from looking at fighting corruption. Let's start with good governance. Good governance starts with the laws we have and how we implement these laws. Do we have the laws? Do we implement them? We have seen in these 5 years how things went through the National Assembly, where good laws were delayed or never exercised and never introduced or delayed, or good laws were thrown out. For instance, we thrown out a constitution that would have been part of the basis that we can build on to move on. We cannot run a country without a blueprint. Good governance, again, we came through an inclusive governance strategy. We replaced a dictatorship by coming together as an inclusive leadership, and that inclusive leadership brought people together, inclusivity, in order to remove the dictatorship. And brilliant ideas of what? Having an inclusive approach in delivering a transitional government. You cannot come out from a crisis. You cannot come out from a dictatorship. You cannot come out from a conflict or conflict-like situation in the Gambia we had. Yeah, absence of war, but everything that involved in war was involved in that country, be it the trauma, be anything else. We needed a transition, a successful transition, to build a foundation. That foundation would have taken us to where we need to go. But straight away, everything was hijacked and everything became one thing as separatist, sectarian, political, selfish maneuvering in order to empower oneself. And in the process of empowering oneself, divisive politics of us against them, which was not anything but for their own needs. And it went on to everything we do was about to empower a person or empower a few people to get away with what they want. Be it we all remember, there was something called a strategic development plan, and I forgot what they call it again, which was to cover the period of transition. We don't hear about that anymore. It was not followed. What was followed was a personal development plan, and that development plan that's brought us where we are. And every strategy being thought about was forgotten. The inclusive development or inclusive approach was not about politicians coming together. It was about bringing the people together. The inclusive approach was bringing the diaspora to connect more with the people. But no, because of now, the diaspora was not needed in this sense. In fact, the diaspora became a hindrance. We have to block the diaspora in order for us to achieve our objective. The objective was not for Gambia to be transformed. Objective was not Gambia to have a sustainable development. It was so that nobody will hold us accountable, because of diaspora have some social capitals that will hold us accountable. It's holding us accountable, and again, the diaspora have represented a block of a voting block, and if they are empowered or they are included in the process of this journey, they are going to be a hindrance for agenda to maintain power. It was all our power play. That's a failure. In a nutshell, that we failed to plan. We have not produced a blueprint, which we needed. We needed a blueprint that we can work on. Just as Sister Anita said, we have to have a vision and develop it. And we'll talk about this when I talk about innovative governance, because that's the only way we could have moved forward. But let's look at other examples. We talk about good governance, and good governance will come with accountability, transparency, and obviously efficiency, effectiveness of governing by using the instruments and to make sure things happen. And in this would be fighting corruption. The anti-corruption bill. For my sake, thinking is, if with this government, even an anti-corruption bill would not have helped. It's the lack of political will to fight corruption. And if the fish rots from the head, start to rot from the head, you have to chop off the head in order to preserve the fish, or in order to change things. they don't have the will to fight corruption, even if they had passed the bill in Parliament, and we have seen that that bill have been frustrated. From the beginning, asset declaration was talked about, an open asset declaration, so that mechanisms will be in place to hold people accountable, people to know how much they came with, and so that when they leave government or when they're accused of anything, we can determine through their assets whether they've been corrupt or not. They forget about that. And they came, I mean, we went through or talked about anti-corruption bill, nothing. And up to today, it's been frustrated. Even if it had, been introduced, it will not be implemented. Now, we have seen that we have not fought corruption. In fact, we encourage corruption. Corruption become endemic. It's just normalized, worse than it have ever had. From Jawar time to Yahya Jammeh, corruption is worse today than ever. Every day we can hear scandals of multi-million dollars. How can we develop if the money that we needed to develop is going to fail? We have seen people transform themselves, from President Barrow, transform himself in multi-billion, not a small, within the short space of 3 years, buying property in the US, sending his kids to the US, doing everything. How can we develop if that's corruption? Not only him, almost whoever have access technically is doing the same thing. From MDs to directors, anything, it goes. Nothing is being done to, to fight corruption. Everybody is technically corrupt. Technically, everybody is corrupt, one way or the other. And this corruption have nurtured what incompetency, because of it brings what nepotism. People being appointed at places that they are not capable of keeping up the politicization in order to entrench the system. Everything else just fall again on good governance and not fighting corruption. But let's just for once think about this. A friend of mine just reminded me yesterday. He said that you keep on making this point, but he thinks that Gambians are not actually getting the point I am emphasizing on. He reminded me the Gulf petroleum crisis. If we even forget about the corruption itself, but the aftermath of that corruption, what the impact it have on us in the economy. The Gambia, since I can remember, if it is ratified, might be a few weeks ago or days, but I don't think so. For 5 months to 6 months now, the Gambia is importing fuel without tax. And the gentleman reminded me, he said 40 to 60% of the price of fuel was, untaxed. Now, by taking off the tax, why prices are at this level? They took off the tax in order for prices not to rise rapidly. But still now, the prices are very high. You see, he said this is how the cartel benefits from these conditions. Now, the tax which are levied on petrol, been imported, that we are levied on petrol, been imported. Now that levy is taken off, is waived off, due to waiver. Now, how much millions have we lost? Those millions, you think could not have gone to the health service, could not have gone to other things? And we'll come to issues about developing priorities. If we develop priorities when we need the health service less, if we develop priorities when we need the police less, if we develop priorities when how those areas we develop were and create a chain that feed into other areas that we don't need to spend money on. We will look at all that. You see, by the corruption on Gulf petroleum only, or that you do waiver, but other corruption from GRA or other things, the inefficiency of the ports and other things, all that is a multi-million, what we call leakage. I don't call that leakage, actually it's an avalanche just going out, or whatever you call it. Leakage is like a small thing be coming out of a structure. I am talking about this is just pouring. It's just corruption is just pouring out in the country. If we don't fight that corruption, how are we going to develop? How are we going to develop? We'll look at that and on corruption. And the other part that we don't talk about more is inclusive. To be inclusive. To be inclusive. Inclusive in the sense that every sector in that country is essential. And until we start working as a team, until we start bringing everything together. And some of the things we think, or some of the people that we think they are burdening on our economy, actually, they are the resource that we have in our economy. Some of the resources we neglect in part of our economy is some of the resources that we should have even invested more time and energy, because there are more, those are the most productive part of our capitals than where we think of grants and loans from foreign or foreign investments. This is in the sense of the diaspora. Yes, I will keep on, beating the drums of the diaspora, because I know what it can contribute. What it's contributing now, I'll tell you, is a fifth of what it can contribute. There are a lot of capitals in the diaspora that can be harnessed, that the World Bank cannot do for us, IMF cannot do for us, Germany or any other development partner cannot do for us. And this is sustainable way of development. This would be way of us developing and sustaining the development, not to rely on grants or subsidies coming in from any other form. In fact, we have to always, I keep on saying that, remember that, be the IMF, be the World Bank, be any country or any institutions from outside that comes in to say that they're helping themselves more than they help us. And in a sense, they in fact keep on us dependent. In order for us to be dependent on them, that's a strategy for them to develop. People that have come across the economic hitman can understand some of these theories or about dependency to aid, what it is. And there are many academics that have written about aid dependency and how to cut off aid in order to have our sustainable development. But inclusive, in a sense, I'm gonna even bring it to where we think is trouble. Let's bring it to the youths of Gambia. When we look at the youths of Gambia, say they are trouble. Youths of Gambia are lazy. Youths of Gambia are indisciplined. Youths of Gambia are this, they are that. We'll talk about the other side of it. Just want to give you an example. It's not only Gambia. Many countries do have this problem. The economic development or the strategy they use. That's why I said Gambia can benefit from learning from other countries. We don't have to do exactly what they do. In fact, we benefit from their mistakes and do it right, because Gambia is small. We can manage our expectations, and we can be very ambitious and manage our expectations to be very realistic and to do it right. And I'll give an example of this. And some people might not have seen this. I point to two things that happen. We've been championing Senegal stadium. Senegal built a stadium. Senegal built about this. I think this is the third stadium they commissioned in the last 2 years or last year. A Rasulin stadium, and I think a stadium for something, and this stadium. And remember, Senegal had Stade Demba Diop. I don't know what's wrong with that Stade now. What they do there, I'm sorry. They had other things. Now, I'll tell you, we are waiting. A lot of people are skeptical, are waiting to see the outcome of this development model. It's a development model, whether it's sustainable. And we will look at that further down. What I mean is developing 2-3 stadiums within the same jurisdiction. All the stadiums are within the jurisdiction, wrestling for this, for that, for that. Could it be done sustainably? Or another way is a debate for another day for Senegal and other people who are interested in looking at development. But I tell you that there are doubts out there. Why are there doubts out there? There is a lack of inclusivity in these projects. And because of most of these projects are designed by technocrats who have a mindset, a certain mindset of development. It's a very capitalist driven set of development. And just as we have witnessed in the developed world, that economy go boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust, due to what the economic theory has been applied to development. Where development becomes sustainable is where there's an inclusive thought, where it's a very pragmatic approach, not only based on capitalism, but there is a socialist element of that development. That consultations have been taken to the extent of the society in a whole have been put into the concept of that development, so that that society have been given ownership, and that society have taken ownership, and society is part of the development design for that. We'll come to that. We have seen in the pragmatism here is what, as we have seen in China, in other countries that we have developed cities, and everybody talked about those cities, and know those cities are now empty and going not used because of the amount of money that came in, the windfalls. We call it the windfalls that came in. They went and built cities. Those windfalls do come in many aspects. They went and built cities and other things else. Down the when the cities were built, everybody talked about the development, but now downtown came, and all those areas are not. People are not buying the properties. People are not moving into those cities. New cities and so on. We have seen this. We have seen this in Greece, where when the Olympic came, they went on, doing all this. It failed. We have seen this in Spain. In Spain, where they built a full airport, built full cities, and it failed. It failed. Airport, everything, it failed. The airport have never landed a plane. That's why I said there's a model of development. And in the sense of even Senegal, and I'll bring my evidence, the model of development is centered to very capitalist. Eurobonds, going for sovereign funds, borrowing, and so on. And I tell you, there are some more things that comes with these shocks. The social impact is neglected. You'll be surprised how many families have been removed without any consideration of those families within the Jamagen area. To do this thing. And if the development does not impact positively onto the people, what's the part of development? What that creates is excluding people in the development. Now, the lending, the design of the model is lending and so on from other countries. It comes with tax and other things. And if some economic shocks happen, or domestic shocks happen, what happens is the development fails. That's why we look at the sustainability of development. That's why I said pragmatism is very important. We have consideration to socialist or societal factors into and put it into the design of the development. And we have seen it in presidential debates, not only in the Gambia, in many countries, where one party will come and talk about aspect of development, another come aspect of development. And in most cases, what is lacking is the pragmatism, what includes all these sort of concepts into one, and to drawn actually to the country. To be drawn to the country, this is very lacking. That's why a vision is very important in that development. Now, why do I say of Senegal? One, I shared a story a few days ago. In Jamagen itself, a part of Rufisque, very not far from the stadium, and from where the school, a primary school, built with printing. I don't know how they call printing in English. But let's say local fabrics. A very poor. I can go to my for people that have not seen it, go to my timeline. You will see the school, and it's Pap Alinya, the activist journalist, that shared it. A school, a primary school in that jurisdiction where this new city, Jamagen, is built, where the new stadium is, and all those infrastructure development, the trains and everything. There's a primary school. Primary school that is built that way, that is very poorly equipped. And if it's poorly built, or not built, in fact, this is like just at local people coming together, building that is. And this is Dakar itself. Imagine if this is happening in Dakar. What part of this development concept is leaving other places in the borders of Casamance, in the borders of Tambacounda, in the borders of Fouta Toro and others? This is Dakar itself. I tell you, it's probably from there, the cameras, the video is showing you Jamagen itself. You can see the high rise in Jamagen. A school. If the school is not built well, it's not equipped well, know that the teachers are not motivated, or the teachers are not of that quality or something else. We are depriving how many students, I don't know. And the only reason those students are going to that school because they are poor. Because rich people would make sure they take their kids to private school or good public schools. Now, imagine how many students are in there, boys and girls. How many students would be in the school? And in the cycle of 5 years, how many students will go through the school? That's hundreds and going to thousands. And now, if you fail, if it is thousands, you fail 10% of that, or 20% of that. What impact would that have in your economic development? What impact would it have on crime? Because some of them would become criminals. What impact would it have on your healthcare? When they involve in crime, crime would have something to do with your healthcare system. What about the women who are not equipped, who are not employed through the school? I mean, early pregnancy and other, I mean, this thing, and goes on. And how do they participate in development? You see, this is very important, and I give that one. Two. Yesterday itself, I've not shared that video, someone else did. When the occasion was going on, just tells you how short-sighted some of these development models are, or people how detached some of these leaders are when they implementing projects. With all this fanfare, Gambians and everywhere else, and Africans from different celebrating Senegal for this development, there was a riot going on, which obviously the main TV station did not show, but alternative sources did show this riot. What this riot is about, youths were rioting because they cannot get to the stadium. They could not get to the stadium. It's like, again, these youths feel disillusioned. These youths feel excluded in the ownership of this project and so on. If they feel not belonging at the day of celebration, what would they feel in the lifespan of the project and so on? Would they ever afford to go and watch matches? Would they ever afford to interact within the stadium? Would they ever even have the aspirations to be in the stadium? This is very important. And simple things. If they have even thought a little bit, they could have big screens in parks around the stadium. Even a little bit further down the stadium, have parks that projects what is going on. This is what they do in developed countries. They make it in communities. Every community, in fact, in 𝐂𝐚𝐧, in fact, they might put big screens in Tuba, in Podor, in Tamba. They might have big screens. People who don't need to try. They have ownership of that. You see the concept of development and sustainable development. I'm just pointing out the being excluded. But I'll come to another one. And in the United Kingdom, we have two main parties. We have the Labour Party, we have the Conservative. Okay, there was a time the Labour Party become just like the Conservative, and they came to a middle ground. I mean, the Labour government is known as a socialist kind of a background party. Workers' Party is the word Labour, that's where that deprived from socialist minded. But there's the time they called the New Labour. The New Labour moved to the center to act as pragmatic, and in order to take ground from the Conservative, because the Conservative stayed for 18 years in government. Why did they stay in 18 years for government? Because the Labour Party went extreme left. They were not pragmatic, extreme left from their policies, from Neil Kinnock, Michael Foot, Neil Kinnock on. Then Smith came with his young guys, Gordon Brown, Cook, Tony Blair and others, and they formed this new emerging power called the New Labour Party. The New Labour Party started to be in the center by taking some pro-private sector and to reach out to the middle class and the upper echelons of power that will help them to regain power. This was the time that the Conservative was divided for Europe, whether to go into Europe, not to go into Europe. They were divided. They were divided because when you stay in power long, regardless which country it is, I mean, rivalry come in, succession planning, I mean, was a problem. They started to fight within. Corruption emerges, I mean, within the party. That's how they push their longest serving prime minister, Margaret Thatcher. John Major came, you know, and he was destabilized. But let's bring it to economic forces. Some of the reasons that I want to point out, talk about inclusivity. Okay, the policies of Thatcher was this. The world economy have changed for Thatcher and the conservative. Now we have to move away from mining the coal, move away from some sort of industry, to move to open market things and work towards creating a service industry and deregularize our economy and deregularize our industries by privatization, give it to private hands, opening up the City of London, deregularize our financial regulations to make it more friendly for people to bring in their money and so on. And in doing this, austerity, we have to cut our budgets. Budgets on what? To the people, poor people, social. Schools started to get the money cut from schools for social services and like things like after school clubs and I mean these things that local people used to. I mean local people, I mean people below at the poverty line and so on become affected by lack of funding. Okay, now what in order for the labor to regain power, they counter this by coming to say that they are going to rebuild. Yes, in a sense, you see, this is the thing I'm talking about, economic models. In a sense, Thatcher have been realistic in certain form, and brought UK economy was called the sick economy of Europe, and to revive the economy it was very unpopular. The same strikes happened and everything. It was very unpopular measures, but in some areas she's been vindicated now, or the policies have been vindicated. The places that have been affected, the Midlands, the Wales, and some part of the North affected now are benefiting from some of this policy that have a turnaround. But again, because she was not very pragmatic, not empathetic, being a conservative of the people, it bring in another problems. Size of classes, because there's no investment in education, no investment in the healthcare, no investment in other things, started to bring up a problem. The performance in schools and so others become affected in universities and so on. But let's cut it short. Labour came with a policy to say that, look, this is, we're going to prioritize education. We're going to regeneration projects. I mean, this is to gentrify the housing estates, poppy where people are, to gentrify it, to regenerate it for better housing and stuff like that. Technically, what they said was poverty alleviation program, a poverty alleviation program, and this is where the taxes have been looked at again, and a tax credit system to families and others were created. You see, and Labour did that, and they still uphold, because of some of the policies that Thatcher had was kind of still popular with the middle class. Remember, politics is about being re-elected again. It's a reality, and the middle class do determine, and the pensioners and middle class determine. That's where the swing voters are determined to be elected. Yes, even Labour are very kind to the what we call the lower class or the working class in UK, but the local working class do not even vote. They don't vote. You see, now you have to make sure you capture these people to win. But what we're talking about is this brought along problems, because Labour too, yes, they went in to bring some social interventions and reinvest in schools, regeneration projects in estates and other programs. But the damage was so severe. And you know, some damages, when they happen, the impact is not known immediately. The impact is known after a decade or two. By the time the impact hits, another government comes in. And this is the impact of what we call it inner city. The inner city impact is when you take away environment, this environment that children grow. I mean, this is the after-school clubs, the town halls, and other things that kids go to enjoy themselves without free, or have a sanitized environment where they have mentors to help them grow and so on. You take that off, what you do is you left the kids with the mercy of the gangs, and a gang culture just evaporated. This is, in a nutshell, what we call the masculine and the feminine, in sociology, the economy approach. I mean, where we have empathy and so on in developing our strategies, and where we just hash and go and do things regardless of the impact on other people. We don't include them in our concept. What this thing did was to marginalize off to families, single parents, and families, working class families, and they cannot cater for their children. And what happened is the peace and tranquility of these cities become affected. Now we have gentrified areas in London called Shoreditch, called Notting Hill, called many names, many places in West London, and down to the part of East Islington and others become gentrified, become places that now property started to move from 100,000 to 500,000 to million to so many millions. And these were places that used to be rented or bought rented actually. It was social housing by local families. But this policy of selling proper housing and creating a middle class became something that let many families out without appropriate housing. Now, when this crime epidemic came out, the people that thought they enjoyed the boom, they bought houses 500,000 to a million, or millionaires moving in the neighborhood. They started to get attacked by the gangs. You wear a Rolex or anything, they attack. And the drugs fell and other things went on due to lack of inclusivity. You see, that's why we talk about sustainable. But I want to touch on a very positive note on to give example when there's empowerment. 𝐂𝐚𝐬 Edwards, I've shared 𝐂𝐚𝐬 Edwards on my timeline. There's a young 30-year-old black youth from London, transformed music industry. And from the same affected areas, he was lucky with his talent. He was able to use his talent. And we'll talk about innovation. He has innovative power by using the digital age, social media, to build a YouTube platform where today we have people like Ed Sheeran, we have grime artists, and grime, in fact, grime as a genre, music genre, became popular in the world. That's a multi-billion pound industry now, due to his efforts. Very big artists today who are multimillionaires or millionaires are because of him. But not only the big artists he impact on, but the small artists that find to survive or to create something or to move away from crime and other things. And the millions they earn to the economy. Ed Sheeran and others now are known worldwide. A youth did that. That's why I said, at Gambia, these are things we should remember. The youths are not a problem. The youths are part of our resources. But until we take them as a resource, we not move from there. Now, why do we have problem of not about the inequalities it's all back to leadership. It's back to leadership, and we'll talk about that later. But a present government, I've listened to a bit of the economic forecast, the press conference from the central bank, and look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. Three things stand out: grants, loans, diaspora remittance. The productiveness of this economy on this service and banking is actually fueled by these three things: grant, loans, and this. And a brother, Dr. Lamin Conte shared that our export is 1.5 billion. Our import is almost 31 billion. We have a trade deficit of 30 billion. Do we really have a productive, do we actually have a productive country? Yes, we do. And we are going to point off those areas. That each one of those could have surpassed a 30 billion turnover. Each, only fisheries. Fisheries could have made of more than 30 billion. And with a chain, that not employment and empowerment of women and everything will come out of that. We'll talk about that. But Gambia, we are so fascinated with our old set of way of doing things. Dependent culture, grants and loans, IMF, World Bank, EU, grants, loans, subsidy of grant loans, budget support, technical support. Yes, technical support, all those cool and dandy. I know we have a problem. We have so many educated people. And this generation, we have to be very careful. I am a fan of education. I love education. I love educated people. But we have a distortion. We have a lot of people, great people, who are not educated, who doesn't have a mind of their own or didn't have the capacity to think. And most of them got their degrees or their masters or their doctorate, whatever you call them, cut and paste, cut and paste. That's why when you come to any argument, any discussions, any input, they don't have. What they do again is mirror everything, or not lift, not even mirror. I can tell you, I have seen a lot of documents being produced, and I can point you to Botswana. This is copied from Botswana. This is copied from Rwanda. This is copied from somewhere. This is copied from Tanzania. This is copied from somewhere. And these are the people we call our technocrats or intellectuals. Anything that they develop by considering what is the reality of Gambia, consulting Gambians, looking at the reality of Gambia, develop something that is possible, is hardly. That's why we cannot see with this government, with the past government, anything innovative that is supporting our industry. And I tell you this, these General Edwards things and other things we can do things. Every sector in that country can be a part, it should be part of. The youths, be it art, be it music, be it sports, can bring in dividend in that small country. And these are all things that we need to see and nurture, but not only about grants and loans. And the sad part of it, when we go for grant and loans, we don't even negotiate the good grants or good loans. I'm not saying we don't go for grants, we don't go for loans. But what do we negotiate? No, most of it is not even our idea. The grants and loans come through the idea of the donor. The donor want to influence something, they come and say, okay, we give you a grant on this, and look, that's what they go for. We have to be very careful. I'll give you an example of this. Recently, we heard about this Bagway issue with deportation, signing. I signed, I did not sign, I forgot to sign, or I'm not aware. Between the Vice President, Minister of External Affairs, and the Minister of Interior with the Parliament. And Parliament is put in a position that we, as parliamentarians, we went out there, we met our counterparts, we discussed about ways to help the youths to capacitate it, to do this, to do that. But unfortunately, because of that's not to our level, they said that our government, by the ministers, for that matter, the policy guys, need to come and negotiate that. Tells you one thing, that then our people that should go for negotiation, they don't negotiate, they just take so-called aid. What did we have from Germany recently? They said, is it $20 million worth of riot equipments for police. I mean, we have seen our riot police. When they come out, they come full kitted. What do we need riot gears again? Why not fight what causes the riot? How many riots did we have? And I tell you, most of the riot we have is due to poor policing. You see, policing is about psychology. Most of the riot we have is due to poor policing. Policing don't have intelligence, policing don't work with intelligence, policing don't work with strategy that nip it in the butt. And again, bad governance. Some of these things will not have to get to people to so come out in the streets. That can be dealt with. Gambians are the most patient, in fact. Most of the things that happen in that country and people don't go out and riot, cannot be counted. Then why is this government fascinated in bringing riot gears? We brought the water tanks, whatever you call them, the other time, water tanks and everything. It have never been used anyway. And it would even not be needed. Why are we obsessed in this? Why not treat the symptoms of this, treat the problems than to try to attack something else? This is an example. Imagine a country like Germany. What we negotiated is riot gears. The president of Germany, and I said here, I said it before, came to the Gambia just after we took 2017. Visited the GTTI, visited some institutions, visited the victims. The reason they came is for their interest as well. And when they visited the Gambia, not only Gambia, they visited other West African countries. Ghana was part of that. Ghana made a plea, a package, and Ghana today are benefiting from that package. Lot of direct investment in many areas. Gambia, we did not. Up to when I last remember, because I was talking to people, look, we have never prepared anything to them. And I'll tell you, I have seen the proof again in the United Kingdom, a document that the United Kingdom government is saying that they have not received a request. After the Foreign Affairs Minister visited the Gambia, nothing came, tangible to engage the British government in areas that they needed support. What do we have? Tony Blair going to lobby. The most toxic person going to lobby contracts and deals and in our petroleum, and that's why our petroleum is not going anywhere, because the biggest criminal is involved. And you'll be surprised that the biggest scandal that will come out of that country is our petroleum. Our petroleum would be the biggest scandal ever to come out from that country. What do we do? You see, with the Germans, we could have a lot that would have benefited to build country the way we want to build it, but no. And I'll give you an example again, and we come to sustainability. Senegal, we saw the Turkish president. I think he's the only one outside the sub-region that came to Senegal. I'll tell you, there might be many reasons the other Adama Barrow and others been invited, but the Rwandan president being invited is of strategic nature. And I think Turkey might have an interest in that. We have to understand how governance works. Let's give you an example. Senegal have their development strategy, but I'll tell you, I still think it's not sustainable because it's not inclusive, and there's a lot of corruption in this development. There's a lot of corruption in it. I don't think it's sustainable. It might be beautiful today and everything, but let's see how it's going to end up. Another second problem Senegal will have is good governance. Even naming the stadium after Ablaye Wade is strategic. It's about politics. It's about the third term. It's about the third term. Take it from me. Everything. And if Macky Sall forced the third term, if you force it to a level, Senegal might be set. Or, it's going to affect Senegal. Everything is doing the push-up. And some of this inviting of some of this head of state is again to portray that power, that influence, that good feel factor in order for his political survival for a third term. And you can see the way he called out the first lady. The first lady is the campaign manager. Remember that. But let's look at this. Turkey. Why did I say Turkey and Rwanda? Now, again, let's bring this talk. Let me give a perspective of development here. Turkey's development. Kemal Atatürk, after the First World War and the Ottoman Empire fall, and the Ottomans have played a vital role. Ottomans have conquered, occupied territory up to, Ethiopia and down inside Europe, to other corners. And everything fell at the top. Kemal Atatürk became a visionary leader who looked at it and decided to cut his losses and bring his boundary to found the modern Turkey. And founding modern Turkey, he building on secularism. You see? And secularism, he building on a constitution. That's why I said a constitution. You see, we have to have a foundation and a transition. And the transition was based on education, on self. The Turkish constitution drawn at the time of Atatürk had three things: the liberalization of the economy, but at least pinned under Turkish interest. That he looked at, they looked at laws from Germany and other countries, very advanced in that aspects, in the criminal justice, jurisprudence and others. He looked at other non-Islamic countries. He looked at them, how they advance. The cornerstone of women empowerment. Go and look at the development of Turkey, women empowerment. And when these three things, education, the University of Istanbul became a polytechnic for engineering. A polytechnic for engineering. Most of the classical subjects, most of the theological subjects were dropped, not funded, and started to fund technical education. Today, Turkey are producing anything that they need. If they even have to buy anything sophisticated, give them another 5 years, they will have their replica. This is how they build. Now they go into oil exploration, they use Turkish-built ships for oil exploration. If they buy a defense missile system, next 5 years they build their own missile system. If they buy an aircraft carrier or whatever it is, they build one next time from Turkey because they have the human resource. They have followed principles of development. But again, believe in themselves and other things, and we're going to discuss about that. They did, and that's where they are. And you understand even from Kemal Atatürk, to extent of people, some people criticize Kemal Atatürk for going too far in the secularism. Saying that going too far in the women empowerment, which emancipation I refuse. But for some, very conservative, they think it was too far. But these are the cornerstones that help Turkey to get to where they are. Look at Turkey with their Arab cousins. They have more financial mineralism, but Turkey is more powerful than them. Turkey can fight their war. Turkey can fight other wars. But the strategy continues. Just as China have a strategy, America have a strategy, UK have a strategy, and other countries have a strategy, India, Turkey have a strategy, and now part of the strategy is in Africa. And I'll come to that. That's why I'm coming to the stadium, about the stadium, and be very careful. Now, Turkey have multiple ways of doing things. Right now, in Somalia, Turkey is part of the building the peace. In Libya, Turkey is part of building the peace. Let's call it building the peace. But it's a strategic decision. And if we understand the history of the Ottomans, we'll see the strategy that have been integrated when the Islamists, Erdogan and his Islamic party came into power. Things that they remove the secularism and they move to the Ottoman mindset of to widen the influence of Turkey. Now, the benefit of sending their troops in Libya, the extraction of petroleum and everything is making it available, and so others. Just as in Somalia, they have opened a market. Vehicles, weapons, many things now Somalian factions or governments or enterprises are buying are coming from Turkey. They go and look at the market share that Turkey have in Africa since the last 10 years. Almost most of things now are coming from Turkey. Hardware, military hardware, and other things are coming from Turkey. Go and look at the things so-called donation. The big mosque Turkey built in Ghana. You can tell the strategy. Every country will have a strategy. But they do all this to empower their people, their businesses. But if you come to West Africa, the danger is here. Turkey is using drug money, cocaine. The center of the cocaine trafficking recently is by Turkish intelligence. And if I talk about intelligence, I know people think of NIA and the people wear dark glasses, look around and all that. No. I'm talking about intelligence, just as the Russians have done, oligarchs, business people, and different diplomats and different kind of people that will have a strategy, they will be carrying to influence a strategy that will go out to win confidence in countries and do things for countries, do things with business people in those countries, win confidence in order to see. And these businesses are empowered. Construction companies, different companies are empowered by the Turkish government through an intelligentsia. That intelligentsia makes sure they win contracts, make sure they have the capacity to do things, the money. And some of this money is money laundered from other countries, money laundered from other countries for corruption, money laundered from other countries for drug trafficking. This is how part of their development is. This is what we call taking resources from other countries. Rwanda is involved in the same thing. Look at Rwanda sending troops everywhere. Why do you think they're doing it? You think because they are Pan-Africanist is a lie. It's part of a strategy to have money to come to their country. What they're doing in Congo, what they're doing in Mozambique, what they're doing in other countries, in Somalia and others. Now, what is happening here, that's why I said the two head of states, I'm not talking about the other head of state, Turkey and Rwanda, are in Senegal for strategic reasons. Because of Turkey is part of a vehicle using Africa and using some of these people in order to bring development to them. That stadium is built by the Turks. And not that stadium alone, there's a lot of things now being built by the Turks in agricultural implements and other things by the Turks. Now, what they did is, the Turks are using finance from narco trade. Go and check the FBI and other agencies on Turkish cartels in Europe, in Amsterdam, in Germany, in United Kingdom and others. And what enabled them to move their money? What banks are they using? What companies they're using to do this? You see, that's why we don't just, as I agree with Anita, we just don't jump to say that we want this, we're going to have this. No, we can have it in our way. Every country have it in their way. We have to be very careful. Sustainable development, we mean. These are big countries. These are countries that have history of using diplomatic power and other powers. We don't have that, but we have something, and we are going to talk about that. Now, the Turkish are where they are. That's why they meet in Erdogan and others. How do you work with them? There's a way you work with them. But you have to be at that level. Now, that's why I said the cocaine trade by the intelligentsia. You see other countries' intelligentsia. But the Gambia intelligentsia is what? People involved in the cocaine trade in Gambia is just for themselves. There's no, it's not that it's going to develop the country, no. In fact, we are taking the backside of the drug trade. We are taking the backside of the drug trade. That's what Gambia is. Senegal and other places are benefiting because there's an intelligentsia. You sit down in Senegal, just hear people turn to be billionaires. Turn to be billionaires. The Gambians, we know them, involved in the coke trade. Look at all of them. All they say, have few luxury apartments and marry Senegalese wife, and that's it. And be traveling Turkey, Senegal, Bissau, and this thing, and that's it. And next minute they get caught, they're broke. It's not linked to industry. Turkish are linked to industry. Senegalese are linked to industry. Other countries are linked to industry. Rwanda is linked to industry. Look at the Rwanda index. Look at their resources. Look at it. It's impossible. Why is it possible? Because they had a strategy. We have to develop a strategy if we want to be sustainable. But I am not saying we have to do it exactly like other countries. We can do it on our own way. As I said, we have to be pragmatic. We have to be pragmatic in order to achieve this. Let's move on. How do we do it then? This is our conversation now. That was just a kind of a, I know it's a long one, but to settle the program to see comparative and other, what sustainability would stand or mean in a way, explain what inclusivity and fighting corruption would do and what good government is. That's what's happening. But we have to have something called innovative governance. You see, dictatorship, in fact, can be a very stabilizing thing. So I disagree. My school of thought, people are not slaves. We can still be free and move on. I think it's a lazy concept that people have to be dictators to develop. Yeah, but in a sense, the truth in it is there's an example where dictators become stabilizing factors and sustain a country. In case of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak, Egypt was so destabilized because of the forces, external shocks, external things, geopolitical, because of the Palestinian, Israeli, and other Arab movements and all this. But from Sadat to Nasser, from Nasser to Sadat, and Mubarak came in and stabilized it. And that's what they mean. And effectively, he balanced. He was pragmatic. Obviously, he entrenched himself. The army was so powerful. He made the army powerful. I mean, in this business sector, in the construction sector, in many sectors, transportation sectors and others. But he broke a kind of deal with the Israelis and the Americans, and he became the biggest recipients of aid from apart from Israel was Egypt, and he managed to balance a little bit of the relationship with the Russians until the Cold War ended. Then he forgot about the Russians, and he managed to bridge a gap with the wealthy Arab countries, and because he was more populous country and survived. But it wasn't sustainable because of good governance. Ultimate. That's why I said freedoms, and this is what ensued. But again, the Islamists came to vive not inclusive. You see, inclusivity again. When the Islamic came, they were not inclusive. They want to bring Sharia. They want to alienate the little bit of Jews in there, the Christians, even the Salafis. They want to take the Salafis out and others. Very divisive, and obviously, again, they were not strategic in making sure the geopolitical forces were controlled, and what happened is they lost, and the military came back, and what we have again, a dictatorship of Sisi in the form of Mubarak, and that's how Mubarak family got away with all that corruption and so on. But that's why I said even a dictatorship have to be innovative and to be effective. Now, but in a democratic sense, what we talk about, or in a good sense, what we talk about innovation, be in industry, be in institutions, be in a government, is about a vision. Any country or any institution or any person, in fact, that want to move forward would have a vision. What's your vision? Countries are not built on 5 and 10-year development plan. Countries are built in generations. If you cannot measure what your country should look like in a generation, you will fail. If you want to look at a 5-year, 10-year, you'll fail. Yes, you do look at a 5-year, 10-year, but that's from when you signpost it to look at the short and medium term. But a long term always is about 50 years development plan. Senegal have their blueprint. Senegal are looking at a 50-year development plan. Ivory Coast are looking at that. I mean, Rwanda, any country that you see a leap forward, you call it, or any move or any progress, there's a plan, there's a strategy. Just Sister Anita said, we need to find our strategy from us. We cannot just say we have a stadium, or we have a this, we have a this. I'll talk about that. It's wrong. It doesn't work like that. But we can have all this. But we have it as its priority and as it should be, and will sustainably we do. We have to have a vision, and the vision will entail studies. The vision will entail to understand our country, understand things. Visions would extend bringing people with the expertise to have a look and write that blueprint. That blueprint that tells us 50 years, that blueprint that looks beyond our borders, that blueprint that looks into forecasting economy, world economy and all the things. It's, yes, Ben Suarez and others from, they can chip in their ideas somewhere else. But there are people who should sit and draft this. And we stick on it. It's not draft for Barrow, it's not draft for Dabo, it's not draft for Halifa, it's not draft for any one president, it's draft for the nation to move forward. Any person comes and will just take it from we left. This is what is happening in Senegal. These projects are not Macky Sall. They are Ablaye Wade. When Ablaye Wade draw out the blueprint, Macky Sall was in Ablaye Wade government. But Macky Sall would dare not just say, I'll scrap it and put it in the bin. He can't. Because of already structurally and intellectually and everything invested and into people, you cannot just scrap it. You have to follow it through. Now, when you have that blueprint, it's entail a lot, and we look at the capitals and product, the way to do it, the product. But what division, after division, what you do is structures. You look at the structure. Okay, we have this blueprint, this is what we want to do. How we achieve it? Structure. What structures do we have? We have to adjust. Structure readjustment, to readjust your structures. Or is it this form of government might not fit? Do we realize that we have the same form of government since independence? The same ministries, we label the same ministries the same way, responsibility, mandates, everything the same way. Cut and paste from Jawara to now is the same. Minister of Youth and Sports. Why do we have a Minister of Youth and Sports? Why do we think limit youths to sports? Why can't we have Minister of Youth, Innovation and other things? Why not have Sports Council to have an independent, completely from politics? The developed countries that what they do. Take the minister away from the sports. Put a committee, competent committee that runs sports. A sports council, a cultural council that looks after council. Why do you have the minister for culture? These are things we have to look at, especially a small country. It can be very, it can be very effective. Let me open the door for. Yeah, we have to have structures. We have to do this, but we have the same thing. How do we move on? Even our budgeting is the same way. Our budget template is the same template. Grants, loans, remittance. And remittance came in 1992. It tells you how much the PPP have managed with. Remittance consideration, as far as I know, someone might know more than me. As far as I know and I remember, there was a time in 1992, there was kind of shock in the foreign currency, this thing. We had so much Dutch marks. The first time have so much Dutch marks more than dollar and pound because of the shipment from those sources we know that came in that time. Then the central bank have to wake up. And that's how I remember. Someone from the central bank or who have knowledge of this can verify to tell me no, it's in the 80s. But as I remember, that's where it started, and far further down by 94 we started to take that more into consideration. But we need to have structures. Then those structures would determine the capacity required. Because when we look at the blueprint, we said agriculture, we said sports, we said technology, we said this, then we can look at how we bring this thing together. How the kind of people, then we can have a profile. We need a director of this caliber. We need this thing of this caliber. We need this thing of this caliber. And prepare for that. And training, or technical assistance or whatever it is. But even the technical assistance, the donors or whatever, we will have their vision, we have their, and supply us. And in fact, we might even have the most qualified within us, but we will not be doing it. They will send someone from a new, I've seen that in the security sector. I've seen that in the security sector. Someone been brought to direct some security sector reforms. The person doesn't know nothing absolutely. And later, probably they find out. Probably they did not find out. After we knew how he was operating, he was given so much money by the EU. He was contracting consultants and bringing those consultants as consultants dossiers, and that's why we have so much policy documents at the Minister of Defense, and it cannot be interpreted. It cannot be, because it doesn't mean nothing. We have Gambians who are qualified to do those analysis, to do those reports, to draw out strategies. But no, they've got someone from the EU, someone who was working at the zoo, someone who after university just working at the zoo, have no other security. He just did security studies at university, but nothing else. That was the person leading. His name is Jagger, something Jagger, Mike Jagger or something like something Jagger. I remember that name. But again, we need then you need capacity. Then when you need capacity, you need to talk about the resource. Then the resource is about resource management, resource mobilization, resource allocation, and communication. These are the aspects a government should have. Managing your resource, corruption. Generating resources, allocating resources. If you fail in this, nothing will work. You need the resources, but communication of expectation, communication to motivate, communication to have a narrative, to make people believe in projects and what you do. These are areas we need. That's why we need an innovative governance. Then we need capable people in order to draw out a vision, to build out a structure, to build a capacity. And Gambians, we are very famous. Gambia government is very famous. Oh, we don't have the capacity. As its capacity is magic. Oh, we don't have the capacity. We're talking to the EU. Why can't you build a capacity? And I will come to that. How do you get the human resource? We'll talk about that when you talk about capitals. This is communication. A lot of things have been a problem. Just as I said, we are thinking of buying riot gears. And you will be surprised that if we have handled some of the crisis in a manner, communicated manner, we will not need police to attend. It will not have got to police. We nip it in the bud. That's why I said communication. Communication will come with psychology. Communication will come with a philosophy. Communication comes with a lot of things in order to control. Communication means information, means as intelligence, to be aware of discontentness, to be aware of things, and to nip in there to do it. All these things are communication we need. And communication too is not be reactive, it's be proactive. You see, our televisions, that's why I said, if we have looked at the blueprint, we might say, look, GRTS is not sustainable. GRTS is not effective to deliver what we now need now, based on the new generation of digitalization. People use their mobiles more. People use it. Now, Gambia can draw out, we is a small country, a strategy to reach to the people more effectively, rather than GRTS. Now, GRTS can be proactive, bringing in programs. Do we realize that Senegal, most of their drama is informed? Most of their drama is, I'm not saying all of their dramas, there are a lot of dramas just go on stereotypes and others, but there are dramas that inform, that are deliberately put out there to help form a narrative for the mindset of the people on development, mindset of people on other things. And you see, most campaign, or all campaign win or success through communication, and by drama, by different form of information sharing. That's why a government, anything we can achieve by an innovative government, we need education and we need communication in order to achieve that. We'll come to something called the capitals. There's no country that can go on without looking at your capitals and prioritizing your capitals, using your capitals judiciously, in a right manner, and prioritizing it to target the right places, and to make sure any pound or dollar or any person being used is used effective, or anything used is used sustainable. Our forests have to be sustainable. Our marine resources have to be sustainable. Our land have to be used sustainable. Anything we own have to be sustainable. Our people have to have a sustainable lifestyle. And these things have, government have a responsibility in it. You know, at times government responsibility is just to create a conducive environment, to create the structures for other actors, the civil society, private sector to act. That's why government, private sector, and civil society work together in order to do. That's why the policies we draw out have to always be looking into the sectors, what they can play, what they can do. That's why I said every department in that country should have a diaspora strategy. How do we get this diaspora on board on this? Because we have something, different capitals that we can use into that, invest into that, utilize in order to harness the diaspora capitals in order to progress. We look at it. When we look at the capitals, some people, there's a debate saying that the human resource capital is more important than social capital. I said, I'm in the school of thought to say social capitals are more important than human resource capitals, because social capitals bring out the stability and create conducive environment for the development of human resource capital. That's my theory. Some people bring out the theory different way. It comes out the egg or the chicken, probably. But what says here is the social capital. What we mean about the social capital, the Gambian himself. And we do articulate this all the time. Gambian be for anyan, Gambian be support moromam, Gambian be amut self-esteem, Gambian be gumut bopam, Gambian be support moromam, Gambian be lafa buga tribalism, Gambian be for buga hebate, Gambian be for buga efi. Mama, we say that. That's society. More of money. That's why I saw it. That's why I keep on saying the failures start from our transition. You see, transition from colonial rule, we had a lot of failures. But let's bring it back very close to home again. Transition from the dictatorship. Social capital, because what the dictator does is to create an environment that would make him the ultimate power, the alpha and the omega. And in order to achieve that, society have to be dismantled as it is the original form or wherever it is. Because anyway, society was already defected. There were cracks and disagreements or lackings in society that in fact allows someone to impose themselves on us. That's why I said, because of that happened, because from the beginning we failed a transition from colonial rule. What I mean from there on the politic of opportunism, what it does is that breed people who would be selfish, breed people who would not be looking at the national interest or the greater good, and whatever they do is to support themselves or do things to elevate themselves, and in doing that they will be divisive in order to do it, and that's where the dictatorship come out. With all the credits we give to the Jawara government, we hold them accountable. We hold the generation that were active, that were in charge, accountable. We cannot only hold the politicians. A generation as now, Ben Suarez and others will hold accountable for what Gambia is today. That we hold it. But this is what happened. Then society has to be dismantled. How do we dismantle society? Is to be divisive. Jammeh achieved what he achieved because he was divisive. The minute he came, he spoke, and when he spoke of hope. But the hope he spoke of was undertone, not undertone, was pinned on hate. He started talking about Fajara. Fajara, as if Fajara was heaven. Yes, you see, that's the but inclusive. As Fajara was heaven, ministers. Don't listen to what they say. Look, see what they do. You see, when he talk about Fajara, how many percent? How many percent of people were living in Fajara? And who were these people living in Fajara? They are from diverse background. And most of the people living in Fajara, I can tell you, they were not corrupt. Because I'll dive on this. I was a child when Fajara was nothing, was a bush. I was growing up when Fajara was built. Was those most, at that time, only bungalows. I can tell you the first compound that was built to be looking sophisticated, having a swimming pool. That swimming pool never materialized. Was from a private sector owner, a business. Bata Sol will tell me Bata Bata or owner of Contra Bata. His this thing by Seni Dabo and Yusufa Jaw's place, that compound there, was the only sophisticated thing as growing up. And that was even later. That was in the by 80s, in fact. That was in the 80s. But most of them were civil servants, or most of them were private sector. Doctors, Dr. Palmer, Dr. Peters, Dr. so on. The others were in the international community, working in the international community. Few people were government. Few people were corrupt. Probably have achieved. Most of them were working for international community. And what they built then was what? Bungalows. But at that time, because people were very poor, bungalow was something to look up to. But that divisive message, Fajara, point, ministers, you see, that divisiveness. When the imams, you see, now we talked about imams, when the imams came to start to talk truth to power, there's nobody there, because the divisiveness have already settled. When the Imam Ratib made, his soul continued to rest in Jannah, Abdullah Job, when with some elders, or said they were disrespected. When they said, guy, appeal to them, can you please calm down and listen? We accept, even though the imams accepted, they never came out to demonstrate or call the people not to accept a new dictatorial government, no. But still now they were disrespected, and it went on. When ministers and other people started being arrested on suspicion and maltreated, we looked the other way. When soldiers started to be killed, we said, soldari la dañ buge, dañ yakamti. Munu ñoo xaar kañ lañ fi coup, ben ñoo bëgg a kuuyaat. Whether it was a coup or not, we don't care. Because it was not affecting us. It was not affecting us. Soldari ya ñoomi neen la ñen seetaan. It went on. It went on. And the divisiveness, it was. Social capitals. What those social capitals are, it means a lot. To the extent of our health. Our health. A healthy nation. I mean, you be understanding what some of the things that social capitals, how you to build the social capitals. Some of these projects are in Dakar today, where you go on an open air gym. A gym that anybody can go to. What it does is you put the infrastructure there, the structure there. Neighbors started to congregate to that. Normally, neighbors don't have time to each other, but you put something in a park that anybody can come in and use. People start to congregate to that. People start to meet each other, belong each other, familiarization, empathy started to build within society. A lot of things. Infrastructure can be built to bring out that. But if we build our infrastructure, what we do is, in fact, to alienate others. It's an infrastructure that you have to pay, etc. You have to reach, you have to afford. You see, social capitals would mean a lot about the education, civic education, people to understand. Especially coming out from a dictatorship, we needed a lot of civil education. It's not about the politics, but of society itself, to understand, to be dealt with. See, the social capital needed a TRRC that would have gone further down, and the TRRC to be used, the outcome, the findings to be used in a way that healing will, this thing. But not only that, the therapy that would be needed for victims, and the preparation that would be needed for victims, and not to have to find closure. These are all important. These are all part of building the social capitals, but everything become politicized in fact. The country become more divided and polarized, and anything now is looked at lenses of where does he belong. Is he UDP? Is he PPP? Is he NNP? Is he Wolof? Is he Fula? Is he sympathizing with the Mandinkas? Is he sympathizing with the Wolof? Is he sympathizing with the Jolas? Is he this? Or is he from Bakau? Who are these people? Is he from Banjul? Who are these people? Is he Badibunka? No, is he Kianka? That's what we have. That social capital needed to be rebuilt. But what rebuilds that is what a leadership of all levels. But absolutely from the top. My school of thought again, I am on a school of thought that believes that leadership bring about that change. We talk about the people bring about that change, but we need those people need to be organized. There's somewhere that leadership comes out. That's why I always say leadership to bring about this. The countries that we credit of reform or transformation have been credited to leaders. Why? Because of their leadership. the Singapore we talk about, the Rwanda we talk about, Japan we talk about, the other China we talk about. We all see generation of leaders with credit to. These things are necessary. That's why I talk about the social capitals. When we talk about social capitals, the next capital is the human resource capital. Obviously, we need people with brains, people with it, people can do things, and we cannot have our healthcare, we cannot have agriculture, we cannot have telecoms, we cannot have even our ports. Why do I use even? Ports are very important. Aviation, ports, operations, anything, sports, anything, we need knowledgeable people. But most what we need is the mindset. That's where we have a problem. Because of the defected society, the mindset of people are defected. People, especially people in charge of something, they are running the country along those divisive and nepotic way of corruption and so on. Their mindset is not where we want them to be, or they should be in order to be. The human resource capital is very important in order to achieve, but again with a mindset that is oriented in progressive way of doing things. And when we look at this, that's why I said, when you look at the human, as I'm talking about this, every part of this capital, we have them in the diaspora. Why do we, it's not that we are dividing the diaspora from the Gambia, but we have to be realistic. There's something different between the diaspora and the Gambia. Yes, we are all the same as Gambians. We have educated people in the diaspora, we have them in the Gambia, we have, less educated people in the diaspora as we have in the distinct, but it's the environment. The diaspora environment we operate in is giving us opportunity to learn certain things or live certain life or be insulated with from certain problems that help us to have a different mindset or think differently or to acquire a little bit more resources than most people. I said most, not all of the people in the Gambia. We have to make this distinction. We don't have to, but just for the people that always try to look for divide. Diaspora, many diaspora gain. It's not that. It's not about gain. It's about the reality of life. But the human resource capital, if that's why I said that's a capital here that can help to help to build the human resource capital in the Gambia. Just the social capital in the Gambia, just as the human resource capital. Hey, Gambia, human resource capital, bunyo source from the Gambian diaspora, and we don't need to talk about this. We all know what diasporans have done for other countries, and we know what diaspora have done for the Gambia. So ko nit big bañé gis koku mom la né, but whoever will tell you the truth will tell you. During the dictatorship, we know how much we had to be part of it, and now we all know. But I'm saying that we have been limited. In fact, we could have done far more if we were integrated, doing the right things first, and doing the right thing for the for us. I mean, not diaspora, as Gambia, for Gambia. I mean, and look at this thing. How much does it have to take? Human resource capital. Now, the first thing for diaspora, what we need, the government would have done for 5 years. They haven't done nothing. Because for one thing, they are avoiding to empower us by the vote. But first thing that they could have done in the first 6 months was to account. If you don't know what you have, how can you use them? Information is power. These two things are important. Now, the Gambia government, and which was doable. Gambia, we live in communities. We have the community in Seattle, community in Birmingham, community in Hamburg. Gambia can be traced everywhere. Anywhere you go, Gambians are together. Stop this Gambian necking together. No, we have to be realistic of how much can be achieved without intervention from government. We have to. Some of these things cannot be achieved without intervention from government. Now, imagine today, you among a government that try to account for how many Gambians are in the diaspora. Now, why this? A census. This census would take these things. How many Gambians are in the diaspora? And categorize how many Gambians, what age they are. What job do they do? or are they professional Gambians? What profession do they have? What background of education do they have? This information, what age and stuff like that, obviously where they live in the diaspora, even in America, what states, it matters. Understand? If we have this data, only this data would be part of building. When we think of build a blueprint, this is what we use, part of the blueprint. But this is again the information that we need to sell the Gambia. If an investor comes in, or a Gambian want to invest, and a Gambian cannot access to tell them what do they have in the diaspora, in the form of to measure what the human resource capital is, where to tap from, what the economic capital is, how much would these people afford to do or take part in? From where? Is it from Italy? For what's possible from UK? What's possible from the Arabian countries? What African diaspora? And African in the international. I know sometimes we just say diaspora, but I'll tell you, African in the international. One of the highly educated people, Gambians, are in Africa. From Nigeria, go and look Gambians in Nigeria, go and look Gambians in other organizations in Ivory Coast and other places. Go and look Gambians, representing international companies in Africa. And all these things integrated and have it. Now, if a government want to go in to build up, lend money or a project, whatever, can produce this part of the information that the investor, the lender will need. If a Gambian want to build a business, information that the Gambian needs in order, or anybody needs in order to have a realistic figures or data that they can work with to develop. The Gambia, in fact, if they want to develop anything, this is needed. Now, because what they can do is, if you look at the sustainability of a project, they can say, no, we can have this agricultural project. According to the data we have, in Saudi Arabia, we have 5 Gambians. It's likely if we have a package, we can have these 2 Gambians to come back and run this or be part of this. In United Kingdom, we have 1 Gambian. We have 2 Gambians. We have this, we have that. If we want this project, part of this project, designing this project, we'll look for part of the funding is to get Gambians a package. We don't need a foreign person to come and do this. We would be more beneficial to get a Gambian who have the expert knowledge, but have this Gambian culture in him to come and stay and do this. It's more sustainable. 2, when they look at the project, they say, but this project, how can we sell this? Oh no, we can sell it because we have 300,000 Gambians, and 100,000 Gambians, about out of these 200,000, this is the income brackets of Gambians. You see, this not information will help us to make things realistic and things achievable. You see, when pandemic happens or other things happens or disaster happen, we need help, we can tap in. Because some of these people, they don't have to come and travel to help. They can sit where they are, communicate. We can then look at the hospitals, our hospitals. We can have a telemedicine where a surgeon in America, surgeon somewhere else, Gambians, because of the most productive will have, most productive will be a Gambian. Not only diagnosed, but why that Gambian? Because he understands the culture. He understands our dietary. He understands most of the things than an expert in America who might not know some of these things. Why not a Gambian? Sustainability, that's what it is. As I said, human resource, we could have done that. The other thing we have is a build capital. When you have this, human resource capital, when you have social capitals, human resource capital, you have the build capital. The build capital is the existing infrastructure we have. Before we develop any new infrastructure, we look at the existing. We have to maintain the existing. We need to transform the existing at times before building new. And maintenance will come into this. And you can, if we realize that part of our problem is we don't maintain. We can build the best thing, but we don't maintain. Now today, we have the Kairaba Conference Center. If you ask me, I'll say we don't need it. We have a lot of conference centers all over. I mean, we could have maintained those conference centers. Now, is that conference center sustainable? How much does it cost to maintain it? Are we making any revenue to maintain it? No. We're not making revenue from there to maintain it. It's draining our resources. It's draining resources. It's not productive. It's not sustainable. But it could have been made sustainable, and I'll explain. Let me just note it down. How to make that sustainable. I'll come to that. The bill capital, the port authority could have been maintained. Before the expansion, even it could have been maintained or adjusted to be effective. Bring in more cranes, bring in before we go acquiring all that land in Banjul to build containers. In logistics, why do we build containers to store? Why not have a system that the containers will go to where they need to go quicker? That we don't need the space to keep them. That as they come, they go. We can have more areas that the ships will come. But every ship would have, every docking ship would have its own compartment to deal with. Why didn't we invest in that? It's money. The money will come in. The more efficiency we apply, the more we make money. And that money can go into other industries, in other areas to develop. Now, what is this obsession of building container terminals? Somebody is benefiting in this, buying land and building container terminals. This is what happens when people that design, people that implement are only looking at the short term, or are looking at something that they can go and get their dependents today to sustain a lifestyle. Why can't we have a system where we have the 2 jetties we have, or I think they'll have 4 jetties or 5 jetties, and every jetty would have a crane dedicated, and there's 2 reserve cranes. Why don't we have this? Why don't we have this? Bro, am I online? Okay. Why don't we have this? Efficiency, but again, capacity, structural, innovation, all this is absent. Good leadership is absent. Corruption is endemic. This is the problems that we have. It's not moving. And the hospitals, we're talking about 500, they said new 500 bed hospital. I don't believe they're going to do that. Might be just a campaign promise. But before that, why could we not make sure the RVEH we have is sustainable? Is delivering what it should deliver? Why not the other hospitals we have, Bansang, Buyam, and other places are missing? Why can't we upgrade some of our health centers to do the necessary things that we need to do? What other things we need to do? How are we going to staff these hospitals? How are we going to staff these hospitals when the human resource development is not there? When just recently a nursing school of nursing is not being equipped, cannot be sustained. Part of our development, we could have even produced more nurses, surplus nurses, that we export. Philippines have been exporting nurses for over 40 years. Philippines. And still there's a market for that. And there's always going to be a market for that. Philippines been exporting human resources nurses over 40 years now. To Americas, to UK, to different countries. And I'll tell you, we could have produced better nurses. Language barriers, cultural barriers, and a lot of things. We are more refined to come to adapt to a lot of Western cultures. That's why I said we have to have a way of developing ourselves, developing the country sustainably. The build capital, we need to find a way of maintaining, way of upgrading, and before we think of new, go and build a new hospital and see what's going to happen to it. Go and build a new airport, see what's going to happen to it. Go and build a new terminal and see what's going to, new port and see what's going to happen to it. I am not saying we should not have a new port, new airport, new this thing, but that comes from a blueprint that looks into 5 years of the benefit of this. How is it sustainable? How can this be implemented? And this will have to look at not only Gambia, but beyond our border and the world economy, how it's driven. That's what happens. We just don't come because of one president come another. That's why we need a blueprint that look at this in 50 years. I said we can cooperate, we can compete with Senegal, but we don't compete with them the same way they do their development. We have a niche. We have a way to do it. We have a lot of advantage we have, and I will explain that in a minute. The build capital, and now we come to the natural resource capitals. The natural resource capitals we have, that we need to know. We need to evaluate. And when we take off natural resource capital, people will run to, oh, the diamond, or gold, or the petrol. Yes, those things are prospects that we need to look at. Yes, we know what is feasible. We know that we have some minerals in in certain areas that are of market value. We have seen what is happening with our minerals in the Congo South. Who is benefiting? We don't even know how much it generates or not. Now, how can we develop sustainably if we have a mineral that has been mined and it's not even been mined properly, probably polluting the environment and disturbing the soil topography and other things, not been restored after use? How do we develop? That's why the natural resource capitals are important, and how do we explore this? But natural resource capitals are not only based on the oil, the diamonds, and so on. Those minerals are based on the marine resources we have in the sea and the Atlantic. The marine resources alone can transform the country. We'll look at that. Another thing we look at is the river. The river. What are we doing with the river? Do we understand the river, how it flows, when it flows, and all these things? How is it affected by the intrusion of the salt water? How can we prevent this? How can we use for irrigation? How can we transform our dependency on rice, imported rice from utilizing the river? How can we use the river for transportation? How can we bridge some part of the river for economic impact, for transactions to break, the tide from Senegal and others? No, we don't plan that because we don't have a vision. A vision should have told us when to have a port, where to have a port, when to have a bridge, where to have a bridge, when to have a road, where to have a road, how to have this road. The vision would have told us from a blueprint. Then we look at that blueprint. It's a 50 years. Then the 50 years, what is the short term? The short term is this. The medium term is that. The long term is this. Then what do we look for the short term? This is what we do in short term. The short term is from this year to what year, and that year, we reach that year, we evaluate. Did we achieve? What have we achieved? How can we consolidate on this achievement to move on to the medium term and go on? We have to measure things. But it's not our government. Now, how we have in this thing, that's why Gambians are worried and talking about, oh, we want a stadium, we want a hospital, we want this. Yes, all this can happen, but have to be through good governance, have to be through fighting corruption, have to be through being inclusive, have to be through innovative governance. We have to use the capitals we have. We have to know how to utilize these capitals. We have to build on these capitals, from the social capital to the human resource capital to how to maintain our build capital, the bridges, the roads, the hospitals, the airports, the ports, the schools, the high schools, and everything. How to maintain them, how to expand on them, how to build new. We have to know that. How do we look at our natural resources? How do we manage our natural resources? These are the areas that will bring us development. And we have this all. What don't we have? We have these resources. The social capital is something that we built. We have to work on. Again, we can look at artists. I'll take this point again. When we talk about Jamil Edwards, a youth, have transformed a multi-billion industry now. Brought out the garage, the grime music genre to where it is. Open up big artists. Sheeran and all these many big artists now are multimillionaires. He created multimillionaires in that industry. Some of these artists would have end up being criminals because of the environment they were with all their talents. Some did double in drug dealings and stuff. But when the young man came with the platform, boom, many have escaped. And by developing these artists have backup, they have other crew, staff and everything. And some of these artists are sponsoring a lot of other things in their community. It helps. That's how we do it. That's why society can be. And I give an example. Someone wrote a post, Pata PJ, about Jalli Madi. Talking about Jalli Madi have lost his base, moving to Mbala in a sense, you know, and there was a debate. And I'll tell you this. And let me cut it short, in a sense, to say that Jalli Madi and a lot of other musicians can be part of what transforms many aspects of our society, part of the human capital, because art, music is part of identity. And it's very important. Cultural identity is very important in order to maintain our identity. And in fact, culture and art and everything can be a capital. I mean, can bring out monetary these things and other values that we can get. But it cannot be achieved without innovative governance. The structures help them to build their capacity, create that environment that will thrive. Look, Youssou N'Dour did not just turn out to be Youssou N'Dour. Many Senegalese artists you call up have support, and they operated around an environment. They came from a family, just like Jalli Madi came from one of the most industrious, musical, capable families, instrumental, vocalist, and everything else. It's his ancestors, for that matter. And we have so many of them. We have people who have not even a musical thing in their ancestry, but youths are very talented today. It thinks the industry is just very innovative today to be something else. How did it happen that Senegal produced this much? They have a lot of infrastructure. From Daniel Serrano to other institutions. And thank God we have people like Sona Jobate building an institution for music, and another person is doing similar things. But how much is Sona Jobate being empowered in other? You see, this is where it happened, instrument and other things. And it goes more than that, the teaching and teaching and creating a market. What empowered them? Youssou N'Dour would not have been Youssou N'Dour if there was no good management around Youssou N'Dour with all his talent. The Mbala we're talking about was invented in the Gambia by the 𝐴𝐴 Saraba album. That 𝐴𝐴 did not play that Mbala today. I can say the Mbala would not be played as it is today. Before 𝐴𝐴, nobody can point me to a musical band or jazz band, we call them before, I don't know, they call them now, that played Mbala. Everybody was concentrating on Cuban merengue, pachanga, and so on. And yes, 𝐴𝐴, as Super Eagles, they were doing the same thing. But both 𝐴𝐴 and Gelawar decided, no, we are going back to our cultures. They took the Saraba album, Halal Daimaga, and so many. They have some fuller ones, they have some Mandinka, Afro Mandings, they have some Jola Artisotis. I mean, I could go on, Yolele, and others. And that's what that's 𝐴𝐴 to push, to showcase themselves. And they were tired of this colonial construct of these things. And that's where it is. And that's where it went on. The first time they went back, they were so successful in adapting the Cuban music and so on. So not only that, even playback on the Beatles. They were so successful in playing back the Beatles. And it was very popular. They used to go to Senegal on Senegal National Day. Senegal National Day, they used to invite the the Super Eagles to play for them. That's how successful they are. But when they came as in family playing these things, it wasn't popular. But Youssou N'Dour and others stayed with it. Then there was something that supported Youssou and others. Baba Mal and others. Management, infrastructure, and other things. And Youssou, go and look at Youssou's background. When Youssou had the opportunity to venture outside and meet Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel's influence on Youssou N'Dour, that's what brought the duet with Nene Siri on 7 Seconds. 7 Seconds just broke, and they all said, who is this skinny black person singing with Nene Siri? Who is this voice? The interest came out there. The follow-up, be it Satellite, be it Bamako, be it, I can name quite a few. All those instruments, in fact, the background of those beats were not by the the band that backs Youssou N'Dour. They're by other instrumentalists that produce Satellite and others, and that change Youssou's outlook into music, Youssou's maturity, Youssou's markets and everything. But it's because of the environment that was created, the society that was created, the environment that was created, and so Youssou had the support. We cannot just go and beat up our artists, our youths, or they are not this, they are doing this, they are doing this. They will try anything. But if we don't help them in the infrastructure, if we don't help them with capacity building, we don't help them to market them, to expose them, there should be a strategy, and the blueprint of the Gambia should have a strategy to develop our art industry. Until we'll have to struggle. They're taking chances. Some of them would not, most of them would not even meet their potential. People are talking of ST. ST could have gone there. By Babu could have gone there. Most of these artists could have, Jersey could have gone there. But that's infrastructure. And I'll give an example. Nigeria, the juju music, calypso music, every music was played. Very popular, but it was within Nigerians and some Africans, and mainly Nigerians and Ghanaians and Africans who were exposed, especially in the diaspora, to Nigerians and Ghanaian culture, that into juju and other. Solar. I forgot their name. Solar Wole. These people are very popular in the African diasporas. What make the difference with Afrobeat? The Nigerian diasporans. You see, the minute the Nigerian diasporans believe in the Afrobeat, to the extent of going into clubs, that they have influence to play the Afrobeat in those clubs, and other people listening and hearing and dancing to the Afrobeat, that's the explosion started. Super Etoile, thank you very much, sister. That's where the Afrobeat started. And again, that's why I said we have to respect each other. It's not that the diasporans are better than the same, but no, we have an opportunity. It's yara ñu ko wërsagal rek ñu nekk fi environment. But the Nigerian diasporans invested, in fact, and I had where artists, Afrobeat artists, credited them for what they have today. And once it started to go into popular, mainstream radios, it's endless. Now Afrobeat is in fact infused into R&B and other cultures. We can go and explain about Motown, how Motown become what it is today. But what Motown was and what rappers are today. Now rappers can own their own brand because there's education they have. All this education is not something they only have in school, but something that an environment informed them. Today you have the Jay-Z's, you have these people owning labels, owning multi-million. They are not the best of musicians. They are not. Some of them are not even good. But they are. They appeal and they know how to sell themselves. It's all about marketing. The best musicians from Marvin Gaye and others, they've never been that rich. They never own anything. But these people today, they own everything. This is where we have to learn that Gambia, we can create our own. It's not about competing with Senegal. We can compete with the best, but we have to build it, structurally. We have to build it systematically. We have to put capacity in. We have to invest in it. It's something worth investing. It's not only sports. It's not only this. We can do that. This is where we talk about how to gain these resources to move on. But again, in development, we talk about development. Then we want to develop. We have to understand to There are things that we need to achieve first, prioritize. There are things that we call development. These are things we point to say, this is what development is. And in any setup, we'll tell you the productive sector. To produce. Production sector, we have to produce. And produce what? Mainly food. There's no country that will develop without producing enough food or having a strategy that they can have sustainable. United Kingdom, you'll be surprised some of the measures they take in order to be sustainable. Make sure they produce their own. How they support their farmers. How they subsidize their farmers. How do they, in fact, educate the people to consume something produced in their country. These are all important. Look, let's look at, did this government do anything about production? As I said, go and look at the, listen to the central bank today. The production capacity, they've not been talking about that. They've been talking about grants, loans, their remittance, and according to Dr. 𝐂𝐚𝐧 our deficit, we only export 1.5 billion when we import 31 billion. Deficit of almost 30 billion. Deficit of 30 billion because we don't produce. I'll tell you, if only we produce enough to eat and to add value to some of the produce we do and sell, only that would have saved us a lot. With what? Let's say, look at production only. Let's look at the economy of production only. When we produce our own farmers, we have the river. I said we have the resources. We have the people. We have the youths. Most youths are moving from the rural to urban, then jobless and so on. And farming can be sexy. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of youths that would want to do farming if farming was paying. I wouldn't blame people if they want to run away from farming. If for a whole year, they're going to have 10,000 or 20,000. And that too is even a problem. They might even be paying fake currency. Why would I want to toll for publicity? This is the economy of things. Now, if our blueprint, our strategy was to produce enough for us to eat and consume over. Now, if we produce, we create farmers. How many? If you ask the Gambia government, they tell you about our productive labor is on agriculture. Our this is agriculture. Where is agriculture empowerment? They go and look at the agriculture budget. Everything they look at, the technocrats, is where they can chop. Why do we keep on importing fertilizer? We don't use the fertilizer. We know that. Every year, more fertilizer is imported. I've talked about the fertilizer corruption in this country. But because of from barrel down, they are benefiting. But the farmers don't see the fertilizer. It goes back out to Senegal and other countries. That tells you that there's no serious agricultural development project or program in the country. Now, rice production, we'll get to that. But let's say anything from horticulture, animal husbandry, poultry, rice, and other goods and other staple foods and others we can produce. We have the soil, we know that. Soil is fertile enough. We have the water table is accessible by boreholes and other forms. Irrigation is possible from the river and others. We have the human resource, manpower, labor, this thing. And we have the human resource, we have the educated from how many graduates from research institutions around the world, from Taiwan, China, UK, America, the best institutions, we have them. Why are we not doing it? Don't tell me it's finance. How much money has been poured in? And we can look at other alternative form of finance. Not if you look at the IMF, World Bank, whatever, then look at other alternative of finance. We'll look at that. Now, if we produce enough, what do we deal with here? Not only the value chain, nutrition. How important is nutrition to our health? You know, what we produce is like revolutionizing people, youth, and every culture. I mean, imagine what that does for the social capital. You know, growing up, I was fortunate. I used to go to Bondali Tenda. Even in the raining season, when it is more difficult, I tell you, the place was vibrant by people going to work, coming back in the evening, going to the Bantaba and enjoying themselves the best they can. especially when we have full moon, enjoying ourselves best they can. Kids, children, elderly, different things, enjoying themselves one way or the other. And this was the most difficult part, rainy season. If you talk about during the thread, the dry season, when things have been sold, little bit of money running around, is another thing. Explosion. There was something out there. Now, if you create these people to work, to do something, to feel better for themselves, their self-esteem, they're relying on their own income and so on, you give them dignity. When people have dignity, they will stand up for the right things. You cannot manipulate them to do something wrong. You cannot manipulate to support something wrong. You cannot take them part into something divisive. We will be united. Social capital is built. But not only that, through the proceeds they have, what they produce, make food affordable to every Gambian. And that's a balanced diet, be it fruit, fruits, vegetable, poultry, red meat, dairy products, be it cheese or anything else. We as vegetables, we need it, they will have it. Fish, they will have it. Now, that's balanced diet. What balanced diet we do, people will grow healthy. People grow healthy, they use the healthcare system less. People grow healthy, they're able to work and be more productive, less people reporting sick not to go. Pandemic come in, people have more resistant build because they are healthy. Children grow, babies grow in their mother's womb, pregnant women are healthy, they carry the babies, they are strong. It goes on and on and on. The development of the mind, the brain, whatever you call it, become better, they are smarter, they react better. That's what a healthy society. What else do you look for? And the harmony it brings out because of people are working together, developing a chain. 1. 2, developing a chain, you get to where manufacturing comes. We'll talk about manufacturing, but let's talk about even manufacturing within the agriculture, agro manufacturing. Now, people adding value to their products. This is the excess that they will have to package, to do process in any other way, to sell to other communities outside your boundaries. Add value, give them money to take care of their education, their healthcare, and the other things that they need to pay for. You see how we building a sustainable community and country. You move from there on. That those value chain, the agro industry you building will need engineers, will need a lot of other expertise. You are creating jobs for those people. That's a chain. We move on. We can talk about even one area of production only. Manufacturing. I'm not saying we're going to manufacture everything we need. What some of the things are essential. We don't need to import some of these things. We can manufacture them. Light industries to meet demand. They can be sustainable. There are certain things that our small population can consume sustainably and a little bit being sold outside even. Or even lack of markets outside, but sustainability we can. If you look at the possibility of exports of cereal and other things that Findi and other things that is coming out now in health food shops in the UK, America, and Europe, most of it can be exported and produced in the Gambia, packaged and everything labeled to the last and export. Why we not doing that? Most of the things we produce in the Gambia can be exported. That will deal with another aspect is the balance of payment deficit, foreign exchange earnings, balance of payment deficit, budget. This is where development is. The other part of the sustainable development, it will be manufacturing. I'm just speeding it up now. We took a lot of time on this. It's the manufacturing. As I said, we can manufacture a lot of things. Sustainable. That demand is there. It might not be big factories, light industries. But the little beverage, Dulbro we had, manufacturing, successful, creating jobs, paying tax in millions, and helping, not only, helping as a stimulus to our tourism. It's gone. this government makes sure it's gone for the benefit of Senegal. You see, when the Gambians at times come with this thing about Senegal, this is where the government is the one creating this animosity or nationalism or anything else, or honor feeling or genuine resentments, to what is happening. But it's not the people of Senegal, not Senegalese government itself, it's our government. Manufacturing, we can talk about that. But the other thing is service industry. Look at our service industry. Tourism, financial, and a lot of other things. We could have built this better. We could have competed. You see, services and service industry, we need an infrastructure. That infrastructure, the energy, know it. Telecoms, what is it like? You think anybody would want to bring a tech industry in the Gambia? How this is going to work? The services to financial services center. How can we be a financial services center? We could have, because of as we develop our human resources to work in these places, call centers. Many things could be have been done. We have seen the bungalow concept. Bungalow concept today. Indians are leading all the tech. This thing, I said, that's why I said if you develop your human resource capitals, well, what you can get. But the service industry, and I'll come to the tech startups. You see, these are things that are possible, just like I said, the Indian concept. And if we had time, we have talked about the tiger and the dragon economy, India and comparative studies or debate on India and China, on the path they took and the pros and cons. But one thing I want to emphasize is here today, the tech influence that Bangalore project have is every big tech company now is run by an Indian, and the backbone of all these tech companies are Indian. What does that tell you about? When you do develop your human resource, when you have a strategy, when you have a strategy development plan, it's possible. That's why I say Gambia is possible. But startup. But let's look at Gamtel alone. Again, I talk about production. Let's look at Gamtel alone. The service, if Gamtel, infrastructure of Gamtel was maintained, Gamtel alone can transform the country to help the service industry. These are the enabling environment that helps in investment in the tech and so on. Imagine how much Gambian youths could have done possibly. Again, I'll come to Jamil Edwards. Without tech and social media, Jamil Edwards could not have contributed the way he did. But how many Gambians would have contributed in developing content, doing things, developing ideas and other things, and from there on? But you cannot even have a good reception to host anything. And we're talking about a conference center, we're talking about this, talking about that. But again, the energy sector. But let's talk about tech here. That alone could have transformed the economy. That could have made sure we paid for the stadiums you talk about, the hospitals you talk about, and other things. The money has to come somewhere. It cannot come from aid alone. It cannot come from loans. We cannot afford to be taking loans for everything. Productivity has to be. We have to invest in productive sector, but everything is bankrupt in the country. It's not going to be possible. And in order, as I said, we have to fight corruption. We have to have efficiency, capacity building, inclusiveness, and good governance. But let's give an example of this. I want to put a template. I know it's been a long one. I don't even know how long it's been. Oh, 2 hours. God, I never wanted to stay this long. But it's a program that will take long. Sorry about that. Now, let's look at this example, fisheries. The fisheries. The fisheries, if you look at the Gambia, and again, I'll come to the model of the PPP. You see, that's why I said I am a critic of the PPP. But I can tell you what, PPP have done a lot. And there are mistakes we could have learned from. But unfortunately, after the PPP, the mistakes were so costly, we had the dictatorship, and the dictatorship brought in a system, and that's the system we want to stay on. And hence we want to stay on a system of self-perpetuation. To empower one person or clique of criminals, a cartel, to be in government. This is the way it should be. This is the way it will be. And it's not sustainable. Gambia will go into crisis. That's my point. Why did I say this? Let's look at fisheries alone. As I said, fisheries alone could transform the country. Two, as another area that we can debate that fisheries can transform. And give you an example that the PPP government had. Again, I will remind Gambians, in after 1981 coup, 1982, we have finance minister called 𝐶 𝐓𝐡𝐞. And yes, there was a recession. You see, some of the problems are not ours. There was a recession, economic problems everywhere else and so on. We had a problem and we had to go through IMF medication called the ERP, Economic Recovery Program. But again, as there are people who were not happy with it, I'll tell you, austerity, it was not this thing. But it's just as I explained about the conservative macro-structure strategy. Look, certain things cannot be completely a solution or fix, but I'll tell you, we can credit the ERP of helping revive the economy of the Gambia, or revive the Gambia, or keep the Gambia sustainable. The ARP came and measures were taken and to recover the economy, and a sustainable program was installed. But what 𝐶 𝐓𝐡𝐞 did was, and I remember 1982 budget speech. He explained, he articulated what future he was looking for Gambia. I will still say that he's the best finance minister we have ever had. He articulated this by explaining Japan, how Japan built from the war to where they are. But he went more realistic to explain the Singapore, and using Singapore to mirror. This is where the Singapore dream started from, the supermarket of Africa. If you look at Singapore, people understand the location, all the conditions that Singapore was, time of independence and everything, and Gambia was. This was the idea. You see, at that time we were, in fact, in many areas, we beat Senegal in many areas. We had this magic called the re-export trade. A magic called the re-export trade. It was the second earner, GDP earner for us, apart from agriculture. But again, they went into tourism. We have three products. Manufacturing, yeah, manufacturing, that's how they demarcated the kind of industrial estate. And again, they did look into the natural resource. That's why how they contacted Iran and other countries, because of the West were playing hanky-panky. They contacted Iran to try to explore for the gas that might be present in our jurisdictions and orders, based on feasibility studies. And you see, they tried something. That's how Julbury came about. That's how other things came about, trying to bring something. That's how the transportation industry, they tried a lot of things. But let's come back. They had a vision, and this vision was the people call it the Singapore. I don't know what it was called, but people call it Singapore of Africa. And it was realistic, I'll tell you. That's where 𝐶𝐚𝐧, the idea of going to the French to support us to have 𝐶𝐚𝐧, and the other things were being looked at. We have challenges with the energy, then they were looking at way of doing it better and so on. Yeah, corruption came into it. But let's concentrate on the positive here that we need to look at. But I want to point to one thing they did was looking at the fisheries sector. There was licensing of trawlers, but it was limited, sustainable, control. The then marine unit was very proactive, and they were seizing boats, trawlers, bringing them back to the Gambia, been punished. There was the NPE and other, factories or this thing, processing value chain to the fish, creating employment, paying tax, in fact, landing fish to be available into the market. There was all that. But they looked at another thing was called the Coastal Fisheries Development Program and the Rural Fisheries Development Program, two systems. And the coastal was from Banjul, Wafinjago, Bakau Beach, Tanje, I think Burfoot, and some others along the coast, how to develop fisheries. And they looked at all areas. I'm going to quickly just point to what they did. This project, they went to Japan. You see, when you draw your own project, they went to Japan with this project. Japan have no other interest. All Japan wanted was Gambia to support them in the whaling convention, where they debate and vote against whaling or for whaling. Japan was for whaling, and they wanted Gambia to support. And Gambia went with their shopping list and said, we want support to our local artisans. We want to develop a policy, an initiative that will help us engage Gambians more into fisheries to make it available and to build a value chain. The Japanese agree, not only to help financially, but to help build the capacity and so on. That was early 1990s. Before it kicked in was early 1990s. The program by 1994 started to be commissioned. Let me give an example of Bakau, what they did with Bakau. Before Bakau, they took Gambians to Japan and teach them to run the projects. Gambian citizens were taken to Japan to run the project from different communities in the Gambia. Capacity was built, one. They came back. Two, when they did the survey, they looked at to access how Gambians can access the environment that they need to operate in. That's how Bakau Beach. That's how Bakau Beach was modified. Now, to give access that vehicles can go down to the beach side and able to participate in the activities they need to participate in to build the fisheries project. And the road was built to get to Bakau. Another thing that was built was the jetty. You see, structural. They built a jetty. A jetty makes it easier, be it high tide or low tide, so that fishermen can easily jump in and jump out of their boats, and they can anchor their boats safely, to give it efficiency in their production. They built a jetty. Yeah. Another thing they did was they built fiber boats, the most sustainable, efficient, because fiber boats would the speed of the boat would be faster, get to your locations, get you out of your locations, and not consume, make you to consume petrol and so on. Efficiency on the boats, they help them build fiber boats that they'll be using. Not only that, they build nets and help them to how to repair those nets. They supply them with the techniques, help train them in this net. They supply nets and everything. Not only that, they build the coal plant coal stations, where the catch can be taken to be freezed, so that the value of the fish can can be prolonged, so that the fish will not be rotting, or if they have overcatch, it can still be kept and sold at a good price. Not only that, they build a processing. They help them build a processing sector, where the women that normally process the fish, be the dry fish, be the smoked fish, and everything else, was done in a hygienic, more sustainable way along the beach, rather than them fetching the fish, going in somewhere in Bakau, doing it and pollute that environment of Bakau. Now they brought it by the beach side, and everything was done there sustainably, and by using the right fuel in order for the toxins and everything else. They train the women to avoid using any fuel that will cause toxin into our health and so on. Not only that, they provided vehicles that will help to transport some of this fish to the hinterlands, to other areas that would not have the kind of fish that is taken from the ocean. You see, not only that, again, they help organize local committees. The project was to give ownership to the local communities. Unfortunately, in 1994, the project was meant to be commissioned, the coup d'etat happened, and that project failed. And this is the failure of the project, and there's no sustainability. And this government came, not one initiative the government decided to bring in a way of sustainable development to use our marine resources. We see the fish meal factories, we see everything else. There's nothing absolute that is sustainable. Fish only. We are losing our fish stock. We are not having access to the fish. Our local people, this thing cannot every Gambian cannot afford fish, and how important fish is in our diet. Not only that, we are losing the tuna and to the EU, to the Chinese, to the Turkish. Every other country is plowing, Senegal itself, plowing onto our sea and taking everything off. But we are not. And only the developing a strategy to utilize our marine resources sustainably would have turned us something out. And there was a rural one. The rural one in from Lamin fisheries to Tendaba to Bintang, Fonyi Bintang, to other places in the country, to Basse. They had what is called the river fishing or the rural fishing project, and that too was helped to be sustainable to help local fisheries, fishermen and fish availability and so on. But let's put it this way. Yesterday or the day before, one of our sisters shared that a one packet of crab was costing how many dollars? Crab. Look, crab is something that we could have far more. Crab was plentiful in our time of being a kid. We go anywhere, we can catch crab. We can only crab. The most expensive lobsters. We go in the rocks in the Bakau beach. We get lobsters. We used to, I don't know now. It was that much we have, but most of it is gone. We could have managed all this sustainably and be selling this ourselves to bring in foreign exchange and everything else, but it failed. Now, this is to show you that it's possible, and the money generated from this productivity, this thing could have paid for most of the things we want. Let's look at the stadium of Bakau. Now, again, a stadium was a grant given to us. And if you look at every country that those stadiums were built, were not sustainable. The Gambia had their stadium first, called the Friendship Stadium, Independence Stadium, sorry, and the Friendship Hostel. Then Senegal have their stadium called the Amitié, Stade Amitié. But the Amitié is normal because they used to use the other stadium before Amitié. Amitié now is normal. Now, this development is not sustainable. China will come and build, just as they build the conference center. They design it, they think of anything. This it's not our input. Why is it the problem not sustainable? How many football matches are played in either Senegal or Gambia? It will never. You cannot sustain a stadium by people paying tickets for the stadium. It's too expensive to maintain a stadium. Then why can't we have a concept to build a stadium that integrate all the things within the stadium? The Bakau Stadium today can be rehabilitated with the Friendship Hostel and the other land available to be transformed into other things. The private sector can be invited to have a piece of that pie, to invest in it in order for the sustainability of that district. It's in a practical location for office building. We can build offices at the Independence Stadium. The Ministry of Youth and Sports can be relocated there. Ministry of Culture can be relocated there. Other councils can be relocated there. Other agencies can be relocated at the Independence Stadium. That would generate the income to sustain the stadium. The stadium itself can be part of what a sports and hospitality industry. Why can't we have a college of sports development and the stadium be part of it? We can look at way to convert part of the pavilion or side of the pavilion or behind the pavilion to be used as classes or other things that can be adopted during non-football days to be used for something else. The Friendship Hostel can be turned to a more functional, effective hotel that doesn't only have to rely on footballers, but can be used as an academy as well to train youths in hospitality. This is, we have to think beyond. We can get the private sector to build offices within the stadium, and other agencies can run those offices. Government can build offices in the stadium, and that income generated can maintain the stadium. But again, if we cannot fight corruption, if we don't have innovative government to make sure NAWEC works, there's nothing else that would work. If we cannot have network, we cannot have a social country that have social capital, that society works well, nothing will work. We'll come back to that. I mean, just as I give an example as the stadium, it's just example of the conference center. Why do we think that we can build a conference center and invite people to come and have conferences in the Gambia? How many conferences will we having in the Gambia? After the OIC, if it even happened, how many conferences we're going to have? Most of the conferences, what size are they? Now, any small conference, we're going to the Sadauda Kairaba conference center. We have many conference centers everywhere, in hotels, in offices, and some of this doesn't even need to be at the center. The conference center, if it was built for the OIC, it should have been built, designed, you see, because it was given to us, we just accepted. China want to give us a conference center. We said, yes, thank you very much, but we want the design to be something else. So that after the conference, this conference center can be used as our national theater, where we will host as part of the University of the Gambia, where art and culture and theater and any artistic kind of thing can be taught. That will be 24/7, it can be used. We can host international concerts, indoor concerts. We can do a lot. There are buildings now that can be adaptable to do different functions, different times. But no, we don't think, we just take what's been given to us, and now instead of benefiting us, it's draining our economy. So many millions will go into that to maintain it, and we will not afford to maintain it. What will happen? It will disintegrate. And we said we used to have a very nice conference center here. That's why I said the development aspect, we have to look at how to maintain. We have to look at our built capitals, our existing capitals. Yes, we could have, one day we can have a conference center of that magnitude, but I don't think it's now. We have not created why we need a conference center like that. But that conference center could have been used, to be very beneficial in a way that every day it's something productive is happening there and generating income to sustain itself. That's why we need a sustainable project. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a long one, 2.5 hours. Never planned it to be that, and we could have deliberated more onto some of these things. But as I said, most of the things said here, it's not known. We're just trying to create an environment that we can discuss, to educate each other, exchange, and to remind us to be more vigilant, to look at these things, to hold the government accountable for it to happen. It can be done. We have what it takes to be done. We don't lack the resources. And what we lack is the leadership that will bring out good governance and prioritize in fighting corruption and to make sure it's inclusive. We can bring an inclusive this thing. What I was saying, which one I just want to emphasize on, again, about the diaspora, inclusive about the diaspora and youths, communities, every bit of us to own something. When you own something, you care more about it and it becomes successful. People believe in themselves, believe in it, it becomes successful. For instance, we talk about rice development. If we have a government that create a conducive environment, we have seen what Maro Farms is doing, the hectares of land they're developing. We can have many Maro Farms, and the money to support that needed not to come from World Bank, from anybody else. But the capacity that needed not to come from anywhere else. We have the capacity, we have the trained engineers and everything around the country, in that country itself and in the diaspora. Now, if we have a government that looked at this sector, to target the rice production or any production in that country, and decided to say, how do we finance this? How do we get harness the diaspora economic capital in order to sustain this? Now, how do we get diasporans to invest in the rice production? Now, what structure would it take? What board is going to be comprised here? We have the Gambia private sector, we have government, we have the diaspora, part of a governing board to look after this investment. You think how many Gambian diasporas would not mind to put $500 or £500 If you have 20 Gambians put £500, that's $10,000. $10,000 in any investment to rice development, it can take some hectares. And I am thinking how many would even put more than that. You know why most Gambians would put money, invest in that? They are investing in stock shares and other things, more riskier things. No, it's about the opportunity to impact. Most would invest, probably not thinking of even getting their returns there or their money back, but to see the impact that jobs will be created for youths, rice availability would be there, and it will impact in many ways, and in fact will help them that the rice their family will be buying will be more of a quality and will be less costly, because it's not sustainable, the price is going, but it's creating something, development for the country, and that would be good enough. If they have little returns in it, that would be brilliant. And that project would have encouraged as a template for other, for animal husbandry and other things. But we have to have government that is innovative to come out to this. Yes, we can say, oh, private sector can do it all. No, but you have to remember, there are certain areas that government do best. It's like to guarantee. It's like guarantee investments, just as when they say that we guarantee your savings. Yes, this private sector running your savings, but because of there's something that the Central Bank of the Gambia is looking at how these banks operate. Okay, the Central Bank will look at, because why don't you just go and invest in something? When you look at investments in, what do you look at? What is the guarantee of an investment? Is it under the financial regulations of the United Kingdom or America or wherever it is? That's why we need government. Government have a role to play to create that environment. Most of the time, it's not to look for grants or loans or anything. No, help to design. Bring people together to design. Bring the private sector. Bring the diaspora to be part of it. Be inclusive. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a long one. Jërëjëf.